I'm Richard Bunse, an artist, one of the partners of the River Gallery in Independence. I've been an artist pretty much all of my life, uh, before I even knew I was. Um, Went to school back in the 1970s at Western Oregon. Spent about 4 years studying art there. Uh, and after going to school at Western and studying art, I had to get a real job, and it ended up being a, a cartographer and a planner, and I did that for about 11 years. And then I got rescued by Ronald Reagan. There was this recession that was caused by Ronald Reagan, and that's what uh, made the Polk County, where I was working at the time, go from uh, four draftsmen to one half of a draftsman, and I was one of the ones that were let go. And it was the best thing that's ever happened to me. I haven't really worked at that field since. I've been mainly an illustrator and a artist, freelance artist, and that was a time when uh, we were going through some big life changes. Uh, had a midlife crisis. Was turning 40 and had a pair of twins, and I ended up being a house dad for a few years. And I also started illustrating books and magazines, thinking I could do that and taking care of kids at the same time, which doesn't work real well. But anyway, from then on, I've pretty much been a book illustrator. I've done work in national magazines and for published books and publishing houses, and I've done work for fine press, limited edition work. I did one of the probably the best ones I ever worked on was a fine press limited edition of Roderick Haig Brown's diary. Roderick Haig Brown was a philosopher and judge and writer, wrote many books on outdoors and conservation, and that was probably one of the best letterpress books I did. Although I don't do as much illustration now, I still do some. I've been doing some artwork for poetry magazine, poetry books, and still doing some illustration of outdoor magazines, Fly Fishing the West, and those kind of things. But primarily, I'm a fine artist now, and I've been a member of the gallery the gallery has been here for 20 years now, and for maybe 10 years before we opened until now, my primary focus has been fine arts, and I've done a little bit of everything. I love line and I love drawing, and that's my passion. I also do watercolors, and I love the serendipity of watercolor and the magic of it. And although I do paint acrylics and I like watercolors better because acrylics are obedient. You put them down, they stay where they're going to be. Watercolors are like chasing a pig with a stick. You've got to point them in the right direction and let them go, and just nudge them around and make what happens work. And it's a little bit like playing chess 3 steps ahead of yourself. It's a very intriguing medium. I love watercolors. I've always been in love with the outdoors, and art has been a way of connecting with the outdoors. And I've done a lot of landscapes, a lot of work with wildlife and birds and fish and things, even in my fine art. I tend to not do any real non-objective or abstract work, but I like doing work that's not tight, not controlled, you know. I like the fluidity of line. I do a lot of drawing. I have a life drawing group that meets in my studio here once a week and has been doing so for 20 years. Was involved with it for about 10 years before that at Willamette at the Performing Arts Center in Salem, and at another building down the street here where we did it for a while. When we opened up here, I've had it here. And it's a really lovely evening once a week, kind of the center of the week. It's a time to kind of focus and be contemplative, and it's just creative buzz goes on in here. There's a bunch of people with speaking the same language, being creative. You know, I've been interested in art all my life, and my main influences have been my family, my two brothers. I have two older brothers, a brother Dale that's 6 years older than I am, and a brother Don that's about 5 years older than Dale. Don has since passed away, but Don was a huge influence on both Dale and I, and Dale became an artist and a professor of art at Columbia Junior College in California, and he's now one of our partners here at the gallery. My brother Don was a printmaker, and he was originally the curator at the Henry Gallery in Seattle, but he became a professor of art at University of Montana for 30 years. And the influence of both Don and Dale on me has been profound. I sometimes think that if we would have all been the same age, we would have competed with each other and gone different directions. But I think that Don influenced Dale, and both of them influenced me, and all three of us are artists, and it's kind of a unique thing for everyone in the family to do that. What's even more unique probably is the fact that we came from a neighborhood in South Salem, and the neighbor was the Barber family, and they had 3 children, 2 daughters and a son, and their son became the head of the art department at Dale's College, and one of their daughters became an art teacher, and the other one was a freelance artist. So 2 families with 6 kids, all becoming artists. By influence, I think what I'm talking about is that just seeing them. When Don was in grad school, he was involved in developing a new printmaking technique, and he's got articles and papers and things written about him, and he was kind of a hero to me, and I looked up to him, and that influenced me. But later on in life, we became really good friends. About the year before I went into the service and went to Vietnam, I was 19 years old, and I traveled to Montana with him and spent the summer before I went into the service. And we spent pretty much every evening in his studio or in his apartment talking about art. He showed me about printmaking and about making collagraphs, and it was just incredible. And it was such an influence on me. When I got to Vietnam, I figured out how to make colograph prints in Vietnam using trucks and army trucks as presses, and army blankets as felt, and making plates with Elmer's glue and poster board, and inking things with ink from mimeograph machines, and it's something that was just a really interesting process to me. And over the years, I spent a lot of time with Don, and we talked a lot about the creative process and about what affected him, how he grew up, how he approached things, and the things that triggered him into creativity. And then he passed away back in '94, and prior to that, my other brother Dale was the brother that was away. He was in Tennessee teaching, or in Southern California, which was the opposite direction of the good fly fishing in Montana. And so I didn't spend nearly as much time with Dale. But when Don passed away, we began spending a lot of time together. We were going to Montana, taking care of the estate. He was in the process of moving up to Oregon, and eventually is living right close by here and is a member of our gallery. And since then, he's been a huge influence on me, watching him. He's a sculptor, painter, ceramic artist, taught ceramics at the college, and drawing, and member of our drawing group. And just being around him, talking to him about the process, and enjoying creating together has been a wonderful thing in my development. Yeah, this is my studio. It's my environment. It's somewhat chaotic, and but it's a place that means a lot to me. And my wife has said that she's got a job and I've got a place to go, and this is where I like to go.